Hello, everybody. Welcome to a highly anticipated, very special stream. I don't know how else to say it other than Warlord is back, folks, and you are here to get your first chance to interact with the people who made it happen. So before we dive into that, I do want to take some time. First of all, thank everybody who's joining us live on Twitch in chat. Anyone who is watching us this VOD, feel free to leave a comment, let us know. But the purpose of this is to get some questions, get some answers regarding the return of Warlord. I would like to thank all of you who are subbing and following and cheering bits and helping me test that sound alert is very loud because you all are summoning playing the drums of war to welcome Warlords back. So anyway, let's get right into introductions because I am rambling a lot. So I'll start us off. I am Chris Vaccaro, aka Nirvana Tool. You all know my Twitch that I am here usually streaming games from Untap. VODs are on YouTube as well. Been playing the game since the beginning, and I am happy to be driving back into real cars again. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for already starting a massive hype train. And with that, we're going to move over to my fellow content creators first, and then our special guests. So let's move it on to the person who taught me how to use OBS and got me going, Mr. Seb Bugla. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you. Yeah, welcome, everybody. Thanks for the nice word, Chris. And I'm here from the European side, and helped Chris to fix his OBS settings. I was also already streaming hobby-wise, and then I did come back to Warlord and said, yeah, you know what? I could record that one. We don't have any media or history on Warlord. We have lost so many informations in person from Temple of Law, so we decided to do the records from the game to have something in the historical achievement. And it's nice to see that this isn't any more history. We getting new fresh cards, and I'm hyped as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm not alone. Like Chris doing streaming, we also got Wyvern. So
what's up, guys? Happy to be on the stream as well. Much like Chris and Seb, I am a Warlord content creator. I primarily stream my Untap matches on Twitch, upload them to YouTube after the fact in case you missed them. I got into streaming Warlord just because, I mean, I've loved the game since I started playing it, which was probably around 2011. I'm a pretty late comer to the game, but even once it stopped production, I never stopped playing it. But I got into streaming it because I did a lot of intro videos to help get new players into the game. I was teaching a lot of local friends to play, and rather than sit down and individually teach each person, I was like, let's put these resources together. Let's see how we can help other people get back into the game. And it all kind of grew from there, thanks to these guys.
Awesome. And you guys, you can see Wyvern is so dedicated that he is joining this call while on the clock. He is currently not in a glacier, despite the fact that his image says so. I mean, that's just his backyard in Minnesota. That's just how
you should have never clarified. You should have let the mind, wonder.
Nah, we have to spoil everything. That's what we're here for, right? Well,
I have yet to stream a match from a glacier, but we'll have to add that one to the list.
There we go. And now we go to our special guest. Going on the left side, starting us off, Mr. Woodrow Hood, who is affectionately our prize wheel is named after here on this channel. Mr. Woodrow Hood, how are you doing, my friend?
The Wheel of Woodrow. I'm doing well, and yeah, I'm just excited along with everybody else. So I know we're the ones, controlling the information and making the announcements and stuff. And obviously we've known for a very long time that, we were starting to get a nibble on the Warlord pitch and finally went through. But even now, just nobody got to see before the stream, but we were sitting around just all kind of giddy together, right? Just, friends and brothers in Warlord excited for the return. And so I am happy to be here. I'm grateful.
And there we go. And then we have your partner in crime, who has been still playing some online games with us, most recently crushing people with Artec, as from the start, as you would learn from the Patreon podcast, which we'll get to. But Mr. Josh King, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Excited to be here. Excited we're at this point. For sure, Arctech forever. My plan is to still play online with you guys, some at least, until that becomes too much. But yeah, I'm just really pumped to be here and to be talking about this.
Awesome. And I think we're just going to go right into it, folks. So just for their viewers, just to give you a little background of how this is going to work. Myself, Seb, and Mason are going to just alternate asking questions of Woodrow and Josh. We have what we think are the basis. We have the most commonly asked questions ready to go. But also we will be having a Q&A at the end for all you folks in chat, and you all are going nuts. I love seeing it. So get ready for those questions at the end. So if there's anything we don't answer while we're speaking with them, feel free to ask it in chat. So let's go right into it, guys. So
Chat.
Hello, chat. So, and this obviously is open to either you, Woodrow or Josh, as we go. But I think, now that the cat is finally out of the bag, what has the reaction been that you guys have experienced? I think that's the first place we need to start, because I can't imagine what your DMs, your phone texts have been since the announcement that came last Saturday. So, how has it been? Either one of you, don't be shy.
Great. Great. I'll go first. It's been awesome. I think I've been blessed that people are smart enough to not DM me as much about it because they know that I'm not gonna be the person to talk to about things like that, and they've actually read the FAQ and know to go to the email address and stuff like that. But I did get a text from the guy who taught me how to play Warlord, congratulating me and asking me stuff, and very excited. And so that was, I almost teared up, honestly. It was like a full circle moment, but it's been very positive. We're excited about the Patreon launch. We've been blessed there. It's awesome.
Josh sent me a message and said, do you know the guy that I referenced in the Patreon podcast who taught me how to play Warlord? I said, yeah, I remember. And he said, well, he just signed up for Patreon and texted me, and I'm almost in tears. And that kind of sums up, I think, how we both feel.
Pumped.
Beautiful, beautiful. How about you, Woodrow? What else how's it been for you?
So I'm getting some DMs, I'm getting some messages. My apologies if I leave you guys on red again. And I mentioned this in the Patreon podcast, but if I have 8 hours to work on Warlord, and I know it doesn't take long to respond to a DM, but that when you send one DM, and to you that's one message, but then there's 80 more, and for I'm sure every 80 there's 180 lurking out there that wanted to send one, but practice restraint. I get it. Look, it's exciting. I'm not mad if I get DMs. Feel free, but just I would ask that don't be too upset with me if I don't answer. I'm not ignoring you out of lack of care or anything like that. It's just we're busy and we need to focus. So that's what that is.
Great stuff. Seb, you want to throw out a question for the guys?
Yeah, I would like to. As an European ambassador, the question should have come because you have always a solid and truly beloved fan base here over the small ditch that separate us. So how do we get Europeans? How do we get our hand on those new cards?
One of the things we noticed from our mailing list, and Josh highlighted this immediately, he's running the mailing list, we have people from all over the place and all over Europe. It's not, so far the mailing list anyway, I know a lot of our social media engagement has been US based, but the mailing list it's like 50-50 Europe, and then the North and South America are the other 50. So yeah, that's important to us. We are in talks with some European distributors, but it's too early right now to nail down exactly who we're talking to and to share how we're going to roll out our European distribution. But we're totally aware, and we want Europe with us. I don't know what languages. Well, I don't know if we'll cover every language initially, but that is something I'm familiar with doing and would like to.
Good stuff. Yeah, I know we're a long ways away. Mason, you want to throw out a question?
Yeah, I've got two. One, just a real quick one to stay on brand, and then an actual question. But for those who haven't watched my content, dragons are pretty much my thing. So just a quick yes or no, will we be seeing new dragons in the new set?
Well, I want to. So yes, but we're not going to we're not going to use the mercenaries as a kitchen sink for everything. So you might see more faction-based dragons because we're going to do monsters and monstrous type of creatures based on geography and location instead of just throw it all to mercenaries. So you might see more free kingdoms. You might see more Nothrog dragons based on where they live. Maybe they live in a cave in Nothragia, and then that would be a Nothrog dragon. But then obviously if we want all of our dragons in one deck, we're going to need to dedicate some design space to making that happen. But yeah, no, dragons are around. Come on. Of course.
I absolutely love that. I love the
That was a
design
rhetorical
aspect
question.
of that.
Wizards of the
Like,
Coast
it was-
does not have the
was-
copyright to dragons yet.
No, it was just to stay on brand. My real question is, how do you plan to promote the game to new players?
Well,
That's a loaded question.
Yeah. No, if
Any basic ideas for that, I suppose.
Yeah. So print and play decks. I don't think that we'll go the route of original AEG launch. We don't have magazines heading out to people's houses already where we can just slip in a starter deck. But we'll do print to play. We will rely on the community a little bit as well. I mean, all three of you are well versed in video teaching and creating content for new players, and I think that's good for you, and I think it's good for new players as well to have that type of community content. And everybody has a different way of learning, so all three of you might teach a little bit differently, but it could be good for different people to each get a different type of video or have access. We at Gen Con this year and at conventions moving forward, we're going to be running demos like crazy, and we will be targeting people who have experience with D20 systems, right? Because that's a big part of that's a big part of Warlord, is that a lot of people have experienced various role-playing games, including the world's most famous role-playing game that uses the D20. And if you've done that before, if you've ever touched a D20, if you've ever had one in your hand, you will probably be able to pick up Warlord in no time at all.
And
I like it.
I mean, I don't think there's ever been a better time to push a game based on a fantasy RPG. There was just a whole movie about it. So I think now's the great time.
That was surprisingly, it was better than it had any business being.
It needed more blue lips.
Exactly. I need some more Jeremy Irons. Come on, man. He is soaking up the scenery to get his castle. But anyway, let me throw out the next one towards you guys. In the same vein of kind of like bringing in new players, I remember like when I started as a new player, the thing that was always like, oh wow, like this is different and unique that no other game really has. Would be the Challenge Lord system, and that's a staple throughout Warlord history. Do we plan to continue that? And will it be familiar? Will there be some new spice? Where are you guys thinking in regards to that?
Yes and yes. It will be familiar, so we will do sort of the standard, Overlord and Dragon Lord, those type of kits for stores, promotional stuff. But there might be a twist as well, and a different kind of product that was never, or a different kind of way to experience a game that was never part of Warlord's history. So some people may have tried Arkham or World of Warcraft trading card game, and they had raid decks or these type of single player or co-op or PvE or PvP arch enemy style 1 person versus 3. We might have some things like that available at some point as well, where you can sit down and before D&D session or after a Star Wars session or Pathfinder or whatever, some type of gaming session at your gaming night, you can just sit down and beat your friends up and all three of them try and take you on at the same time. Or maybe you want something automated to run through and just play a simulation. Maybe you live alone or don't have for whatever reason we go back into a pandemic. I probably shouldn't bring that up, but for whatever reason, if you like the game alone, then we'll try and do some single player stuff as well, PvE. But that'll be, so it'll be both familiar and
kind of
different.
has a follow-up to Chris's question. You mentioned Overlords and Dragon Lords. Will we be seeing a return of the Medusan Lord Cabal?
There'll be Medusans, yeah.
some way for sure.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be war that I mean that is so central. So like Chris said, he mentioned that was so central. Yeah, there'll be Medusans.
So for the asking of returning something after the first swap from AG to Phoenix Interactive, we had a new race that was the Chosen, and they be loved and be hated by a lot of persons and people. So doth the Chosen stay?
Let Josh take this.
Yeah, so definitely not in like a, oh, we have 7 factions, we're going to promote 7 factions sense. I don't think we have any reason or desire to just, chop them off and say we're never going to see this again. We don't, kind of story-wise, we don't plan to be in the same world, right? They were in a different region, but we are going to promote and, encourage legacy type formats like Ancients, and we'll probably not definitely, I don't want to say definitely, but probably not in the first set, but in expansions it's likely you'll see cards that are like multi-faction. Maybe somebody's come through a portal and is a dual faction character, a mercenary chosen or Northrog chosen or something like that, so that there's interaction with legacy eternal formats, things like that. But I don't expect there to be like more chosen warlords from the bat and things like that. Maybe in additional products down the line, but it's definitely not going to be a focus. Like a lot of people have said in comments and stuff since our announcement on Sunday, it's hard enough to balance 6 factions. 7 is a little bit too far.
Okay, so we gonna see more Chosen portals like last strategic.
Hey, I know that makes a lot of people happy, especially Mason, who is a diehard fan of the Purple People Eaters for sure. So he absolutely.
Get
don't
outta
like
here.
them. I like the mechanics. I don't think it's something we can really do right now.
Yeah, no, the Chosen have a special place in my heart as well, as those who have watched my stream have started to pick up. But, I agree. It is, as you said, 6 is easier than 7, and 6 is the sweet spot. So, Mason, you want to throw out a next question, or are you out of questions?
No, yeah, for sure. When can we start seeing or start expecting spoilers? Will it be around the same time as the Kickstarter goes live in Q4 of this year? Will it be sometime prior or after that?
A little bit prior, but I wouldn't. That we're jumping ahead a little bit, kind of like the distribution question. It's we will have to wait. So
Sure.
yeah, and if
I think
anybody, good.
That's
I
what
was
everybody in
saying
the
you can
chat.
safely say
Sorry, go
there'll
ahead.
be-
Sorry.
I think you can safely say there'll be some sort of something before August, since we'll have the preview deck events for Gen Con. Whether or not those are going to be cards that actually pop up in the new set, that's kind of a different question. But definitely expect to see before Gen Con what we're actually going to be playing with at Gen Con. You're not going to just have to show up and figure it out.
There we go.
Yeah, you'll see new art, maybe not finalized cards.
There we go, like that. And so the follow up to that would be then when I hear that, I think about last Gen Con, where Pine Box Entertainment did a similar thing with 7C. They're like, here's a few pre-con decks that are preview. The Kickstarter's coming, so is it safe to say that it's going to be very similar to that in that regard? So cards will change, be errated based off of how you guys see in these live events.
I don't think the cards that we will hand out at Gen Con will be constructed legal moving forward. So they'll be something really cool to have. And in some cases, they might be 1-for-1. Like Josh alluded to, maybe some of the cards will make it through to the final set. So it'll be really cool to have those. I know I did the Spoils card game once. I did their like alpha. Everything was sketch art and everything was, was very basic, but it was fun to just have those cards. And maybe you do a casual format or just in your home play group, it's nobody minds that you're using your really cool swag in your games, but they won't be actual cards.
About cards and changes, I'm interested. Will there be some kind of new rarity system? So will there be some special foils or ultra rares or whatever you call them one? Will there be something like that?
Yes, I don't want to. We don't want to give too much information on that yet, but yes, there will be. And well, I don't want to answer questions that aren't asked necessarily, but the pack, the way the packs are set up will also be different because, as we mentioned in our Patreon podcast, we are going to be making draft packs and doing booster boxes. So there will be new rarities and there'll be also new slots. And we will, instead of doing like, flip over the top card of your deck to make a skeleton, we'll just have skeleton tokens.
Ooh, sweet.
Ooh, and hey, you are free to give us as much as you want. you never have to apologize for giving us more than what we asked. Oh man, let's see. Let's throw out another one. So when it comes to, here we go. This is an important one. Much in the same vein that we've been talking about. The common theme is kind of like really trying to hit on what really the old players connected with, and there's nothing. Well, maybe not, but one of the big things that people connected with was the story. So I heard a little bit of an answer in this from Josh when he was mentioning that like the Chosen were in a different area of where we're at. So is the story going to be a continuation of the original game? Has it evolved? What can we expect from a story?
We can expect we can expect for everything that has happened previously in the Accordlands to be canon. We can expect that the happenings of 4th edition also took place, but somewhere else. And that's sort of a looming, thing that we like the Chosen as something we can pull out whenever we want to. It's any more tools in the toolbox for story and design and dev is always good, but yes, so we're going to be in the Accordlands. We're going to be continuation of, we're going to be building off of what's happened before. We won't necessarily be picking up like sort of the next chapter from Epic Edition. It won't be like it'll be more like a new book that's, on down the line a little bit. So it could involve a bit of a time skip.
Ooh, there we go. Like that. Will players have a way to interact with the story, whether it's through story prizes, like how L5R has done in the past, or anything like that?
Yes, but not. Go ahead.
I would say yes, but probably not to the same extent. It's not going to be as large a focus as like L5R was, or even as large as like a lot of things Pinebox does. They do a lot of that as well, but specifically the Gen Con event that's posted, the winner of the 2 events, so it's going to be 2 events on Saturday, day and evening, and then a bracket with top 8s from both, and the winner of that top 16 bracket is going to be able to influence a card design.
Ooh.
So
Yep.
Nice.
It's a win a card.
That's spicy. I like it.
Okay. Got a question. Will there be some kind of tournament online system? I know it's been asked a lot in the future, but I mean, we're here for asking the questions. What will come?
Not from us. So, I mean, we will still, have our finger on the pulse of the community and be, provide support where we can, but we won't officially organize anything through Kingswood. And you kind of want that from us because there's only so much bandwidth for all the different things that we need to do. And, putting together a program and a way to play and organizing that. I mean, it takes a lot of, as you guys know, everybody's involved in, running the online events and helping them take place and run smoothly. And it's a lot of work. So that's part of why, I stepped away from the Discord and from running the events is wasn't, because I was tired of doing it or anything like that, but it just took a lot of time that I needed to allocate elsewhere. So we don't plan to do it in any official capacity. Once we get some resources and interest, who knows, we're not opposed. It's not like we would say never.
Never say never is the answer. Right?
Yes, never say never, but
it's not a focus right now.
No.
What is the long-term plan for Kingswood and Warlord?
We would like to move from licensee to owner.
Ooh.
Love it.
We got to help you prove that it's like, look, John, this is everything great I'm doing. Let's go. So we'll see what we can do in that regard.
We hope to make John proud. He went on he went out on a limb and took another risk and rolled the dice and took something that's very dear to him, and we want to own that responsibility, and we want to make him proud and do right by the community, past, present, and future. So.
Yeah, shout out to John Zitzer. If he decided he wanted to take some minute out of his day to watch Nirvana Tools stream, well, thank you, bud. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And so do we. We appreciate you greatly.
Indeed.
Making this happen.
Thanks, Z.
Speaking of a lot of work, is there any way? Let's see. I want to just. This is kind of like a worded question that I have written down. I want to make sure that so obviously you're still working on the designs for the new edition and making sure everything's good, but how much, where is the balance that you guys are trying to get in terms of keeping the spirit of the game we love versus introducing something very fresh and very new that might bring in new players? So like, how are you guys tackling that balance, and what are the plans there?
That's a me question. I've decided.
Go for it.
I can talk about it from like a rules perspective. The overall goal with the rules is to not just completely gut them and change everything. Being backwards compatible, it's very hard to do that. It's going to be more of okay, this functions this way now, but it doesn't actually affect gameplay, if that makes sense. So maybe it was called this before, now it's called this, but while you're actually playing the game, it doesn't really affect anything other than rules minutia. And then, as anyone who's played this game can attest, there are so many rules that are just rulings that people just kind of pull up and remember from over the years. Like, the best I can do on certain rulings, if I were to make a rule on old cards today, is to pull up like a Wayback Machine archive of the old AEG website, which is just not cool. So rather than a front and back piece of paper for rules, we'll have a comprehensive kind of rules tome, and that lines everything out, and that's already well underway. And then, in addition to basically just lining out all of the things that we've all done for 20 years, there will be a couple of additional items that essentially allow us design space.
Can we expect any iconic characters to be reimagined?
Maybe. It's more likely that a descendant or somebody, maybe the torch was passed or something like that. But some creatures, some different people of different backgrounds do have long lifespans, so you never know.
There we go.
Yeah, and we're not opposed to like the T1000 showing up, but in reverse or something like that. That's something we've discussed.
You've heard it. King of the Monsters Secret Lair, second set for Warlord. Here it comes.
A short question. You guys already published a Patreon, right? So
Yes.
You got a podcast up there. So this is a question. Will you establish some other Patreon tiers? Or is it just those twos?
Maybe. You looking to do 1,000 a month? What are you good for, Seb? You tell me, and we'll make it tier just for you.
That's too much for me. Just asking. Just asking. Maybe we getting some other infos or promos, stuff like that.
Patreon's in its infancy. We don't know all of what we want to do with it yet, but we're comfortable being new at things. So that's something we're not, which is kind of strange because I'm usually such a perfectionist. But Josh helps balance me out, and he's like, it's fine. Let's just throw stuff up, and it'll help us pay for it'll help us pay for just some menial costs that we have, and it was a great idea. But it's also a great finding these ways. So we talked about direct messages earlier, finding these ways to answer questions and get information out to people in mass, and that's what you want. That's what you need when you're also trying to balance, working on a project constantly. So
It's
I know
also
you guys.
it's also a way. Sorry, it's
Sorry.
also a way to give us cloistered community engagement, right? Like
Mhm.
we obviously can't read every Facebook post and
Yep.
be super present in a Discord or anything like that. Like it's I turned off a lot of notifications on my phone over the last couple of days because there's just too much for us to really go over, and so this is a limiting section that's a lot easier for us to engage with in more impactful ways, even if they are smaller ways.
I know you guys talked about the game being backwards compatible with existing cards. What is the stance going to be on proxies as that goes forward? Obviously, those are kind of a scarce resource, and somebody might not have access to, say, a playset of Shadow Reavers or something like that.
not in so not in Kingswood events, but you think of I think of Magic the Gathering when I hear proxies, because a lot of stores individually, of their own desire will do, let's say Legacy is a really expensive format or vintage, and they'll allow some number of proxies, or maybe your store or your event or your TO allows full proxies. We aren't going to go around and try and control that, but in Kingswood events, no, there won't be any proxies
Okay.
allowed after this Gen Con. So obviously
Yeah, I was
we haven't
gonna
published yet. Yeah, this Gen Con is proxy time. So come and play whatever the most expensive cards are that you don't own.
Yeah, full colorful
Last,
art proxies. That's fine.
last
For
chance at a
Gen Con
Kingswood event. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think going forward, like if we're not running an event, what are we gonna do to control people, right? And
Mhm.
just like Woodrow said, if you've seen people stores running legacy or vintage like events, they'll charge like 10 cents a card or 10 cents a proxy or something, gets the store a little extra money. But yeah, if TOs want to do that, stores want to do that, more power to them.
Will there
That's
be officially sanctioned Kingswood events outside of Gen Con?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and in-store kits as well.
Sweet.
Tournament kits. So, but we also, yeah, there's no reserve list, right, for Warlord. There's nothing stopping us from reprinting really anything. Obviously, we aren't going to touch, Medusa Lords and things like that. But none of the old promos are, out of question in terms of reprints. And if a card's up there, the price is just too much, then we could obviously reprint it and bring it down. I'm not threatening resellers or anything like that, but we just have that ability, and it's always good to know that we have that.
But if a guy wants himself some feigning deaths, which I think everyone can safely agree
Buy
is
Josh's
not a
first.
great card. Yeah, yeah. My first feigning deaths came from this artist right here when I bought the art, and I said, "Hey, do you have some? Can I get those off you?"
Buying a
But
painting
yeah,
to
I
get the
mean,
cards.
yeah,
New
or
meta. Yeah.
exactly, and things like that. Hammer of Stone. Promos that those aren't impactful, right? Those aren't things that are gameplay wise impactful. It's not, but people want them just to have them.
We have the ability to reprint them, but obviously, if we print them, they won't be the original printing. So, in terms of collectability, the value will still be there, just in the fact that there's still only a limited number of those exact cards from those exact printings. So,
Like a Mephit, right? Mephit was reprinted in the 10th anniversary set, which is cool. Now people can play with Mephit, but
Nobody does.
yeah,
an actual right, nobody does. But an actual promo version of Mephit, still is gonna
you
grab
can spend,
$100-$200 from a collector.
yeah, you can spend $2 or $200 on a method, your choice.
There you go.
Uh,
Pick your
while
poison.
we're there and asking for rarity of cards, hard to get and stuff like that, we all know the fact that promos are very hard available cards. So will there be promos on special events, and how do people get those kind of promos when you were not on those events?
I have a very hardline stance on that. And this isn't to throw. So whenever you take a hard stance on something, sometimes it can be interpreted as, you look down on everybody who doesn't share your stance. But no exclusive promos, no cards where the only way that you can get the card is through this one event or through this one product. Now versions, of course we're going to have special versions. Of course there's going to be, top 8 stamped things for big events, or maybe sketch promo versions if you made it to this type of event circuit, or you mentioned something, maybe Patreon things, or of course Kickstarter exclusives. But those will just be alternate frames, alternate art, something special, a special foiling process. That is where we will, make those events and those type of things special, but we won't be doing unique card designs where the only way you can get it is to be in the right place at the right time. That is, to me, that's untenable. I can't.
That's a
I
good
really
standard.
I strongly dislike that.
Yeah. So given
Not gonna be
special
like a-
artwork, that's good, but not playable cards.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
there's
it's
so
not
many
like a
options.
Unleashed Hell or whatever situation.
Yep.
I got a burning question for you folks. Will you accept AEG XP?
I got some here as well.
Did you? It survived
Honestly,
the move.
I want to say yes. My heart wants to say yes.
I want to say
but
yes too.
I'm just saying the loot boxes we give away have at least 36 XP in there. So some people have XP.
We might do something fun. Yeah, we might do something fun with that at some point. But it wasn't, somehow that escaped our itinerary. So
Can't imagine why.
Set up a PO box. Promise you a box of air or something exciting.
so I have a kind of a question I'd like to, or just a topic I'd like to bring up, because I know we mentioned we aren't scanning socials that much, but we are. We're just not engaging as much, but it's easy enough to browse. A lot of people have mentioned product types. So a lot of people have said, I want a fixed product type. And, we've mentioned on the podcast and also now and elsewhere that we are doing booster packs. And so a lot of people are like, well, that's not the product I wanted. That's not the product type I wanted. So why did we go with that? And if it's okay, I'd like to address that.
Go for it.
We like booster packs and booster boxes because we feel like it is a modular experience. It's a choose your own adventure. If we did LCG, or if we did like starter deck style, like 4th edition, it would be only that. It would be only that experience, and you couldn't do the draft packs, which we're going to make all of our products draftable, and we are really excited for that. But if we do this, so if we do booster packs and booster boxes, and we do starter decks, do what you want. If you want a starter deck experience, buy one of each of the starters, sleeve them up. We will do our best to make them themed and fun and interesting and balanced against each other. And just do that every set, and just put that on your shelf. And that's your Warlord collection. That's your Warlord experience. And that's what you wanted, right? From the LCG model. But if you want to, just buy and own and trade and sell cards, do that, and buy the booster boxes. If you want to if you really decide that you enjoy the limited experience and you want to go to your store or your friend's house and get 8 people together and run a draft, then do that. And there's just a lot more diversity of experience in booster packs and starter decks compared to just LCG. And I think Team Covenant, if anybody's familiar, they do a podcast. They're content creators. They have a really good episode, and I would encourage people to go listen to it, called something to the effect of "The LCG is Dead." And I know that's kind of a hyperbolic title for their podcast, but if you go and listen to it, it really kind of discusses the weaknesses of the LCG model, and there are a lot. And that's not to say that LCGs, like Fantasy Flight LCGs or other LCGs or expanded card games, aren't excellent. There was such good design and such good games that came out of that era, but that era has now faded off for a reason. It wasn't. In the end, the model itself was the failure there, in spite of the games and the communities being incredible. If they had been using a different model, it probably would have. Some of those games would have lasted longer because they were amazing games. I don't want to take too long, but
and I mean, you can.
Yeah.
We've seen that with Warlord, right? We saw that model essentially, or something very adjacent to it, and it also didn't last. So
Yeah.
We're not looking to make the same mistakes that we've seen other people do. I won't say necessarily that was a mistake, but I think there's things to be learned from it, certainly,
Yeah.
for sure. And just from a also talking to stores standpoint, how am I gonna get a store to support something that they order X amount and they guessed, and either they didn't order enough or they order too much and it sits on their shelf for for literally forever. I mean, L5R Fantasy Flight stuff, you see sit on the shelf until they discount it out, or you saw that a lot with before that ended, and I don't want to do that to a store, and I would like the store to continue to buy our product. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of negatives to the LCG model, and I don't want to redo. A lot of it again is covered in that Team Covenant podcast, which maybe we'll throw in the YouTube description for reference. But yeah, yes, we're going to do booster packs and booster boxes and starters and some PvE, PvP, Challenge Lord experience. In addition to the old challenge system, and the reason we are doing that is because we think it's going to make everybody the happiest.
Can subscribe to that. Go for it, Seb.
So for the first base set that you want to do, how many warlords are going to be in there?
So we had a discussion about that, and we looked at some different things. I reference Magic the Gathering a lot. The reason I do is because it's a huge team and a huge game, and you can draw a lot of data from it. Maybe we're not a parallel example on every front, but one of the things I was looking at was that they have a format called Commander that is kind of similar to Warlord, right? You have your one creature, legendary creature, and in this case you have your one Warlord. And I was looking at how many legendary creatures they are releasing per set now, and it's kind of insane, and maybe it's kind of too much. But then I look back at Warlord, and there was a lot of sets that had like 1 or 2 Warlords in them for the entire set. And that's why we have memorized all their names and faces, and they're so iconic. They were given that spotlight for so long. But I don't think that 1 Warlord per set or 2 Warlords per set is enough. I also don't think that the Magic, the way that they're doing their legendary creatures is right for us either, where they're doing 40 legendary creatures a set. That's maybe a little too much. So I would expect something in the middle. Yeah.
Sounds good. I think we're getting close to time, so folks, get ready in the chat. We'll start turning to you in a few moments, but I do want to turn it to my co-host for any last questions. Mason, any last question before we hand it over to the audience?
How many sets are we thinking are going to be released per year?
We're looking at 4
Nice.
as a goal.
Awesome.
Yep.
Sounds good. Seb, any
Probably
last
not
questions?
in the first year?
Only for
emphasis on looking at.
So I asked already about the tournament online system. Will there be some kind of registration like other card game does, where I can register as a player, so it make it easier to register on tournaments like Gen Con, stuff like that, and you got your own World ID?
Like a DCI kind of deal?
Yep. We haven't built out our organized play infrastructure yet, but absolutely we want to. We have plans to.
Nice.
All right, I got one last one before we turn to the audience. The audience, which is full of loyal players, obviously, and they've all been holding out hope for this day. And now that this day is here, the main question is, how can they help? So for you, Woodrow and Josh, what would you ask of the community at this point and going forward?
Join the Patreon. That's your that's your quick, easy, inexpensive way to help out and to get sooner. Previews, design insights. We'll be spoiling certain stuff there before anywhere else. So that's a great place. And of course the podcast, which is in its infancy, granted, but we're looking at about 1 a month for the podcast to just kind of sit down and chat. Honestly, we may get guests at some point, whether that be people that are working on the story or people from the community or whatever. But The plan is to just kind of sit and chat about a topic for about an hour once a month. But other than that, if you have interest in other investment opportunities for that, shoot us an email. The Kingswood Games LLC at Gmail is the best email to reach out to there. That's on the FAQ page on our website, warlordsots.com.
Sounds good. Alrighty, guys, you ready to dive into this rambunctious chat that we have here? Because, all right, let's see. Let's start taking a look at.
I answered a question in chat. Somebody said, "Are we doing battle packs for the draft experience?" So, the way this is going to work is no. Sorry, just to jump ahead. Let's give credit to who asked that. Let's see. It was, where was that? Battle packs. It was Rodrigo. Oh, I'm not going to attempt.
Just call him Rodrigo. He's good.
Rod. Thank you for the question. The question was, are we going to do battle packs? How is draft going to work? And the answer is pretty simple. You get some packs, you open them, and you draft them. Booster packs. It's really that simple. There is, and we covered this on the podcast as well, but just like in other games, there are some key components to deck building for Warlord that you can't do without, and those key components are the starting army, right? You have to have your starting army, and you also have to have your Warlord, but we don't actually need a separate product for that. If we seed each pack with a card that's going to either be, a member of a starting army, or maybe some warlords, like some draft specific warlords that are legal for all drafts for a few sets in a row, then we can create a pool of that everybody just kind of has, right? Every time you open a pack, you're getting one of these, and you don't need the extras. And sort of similar to basic lands for Magic, they'll just be around. And then once you have those, you can just draft ad nauseum.
Let's go to I want to go to a question that is adjacent to that from Scape G in chat. How do you plan to keep the draft format interesting?
Interesting.
I know it's a subjective word, but I'm assuming he means from a fresh perspective. So, like, if you draft a set,
fun, replayable.
Yeah, exactly.
I assume.
So when you design a set, you just have to bear things in mind. For 4th edition, when they did the starter deck LCG model, they not only had to make decks that worked against each other, but they also needed to support various mechanics, for constructed, and create a tear down and rebuild interesting card pool as well. And so there's just a lot of stuff to bear in mind. So we will have cards in the set that are obviously sort of targeted toward limited. We also will have cards in the set that will be targeted toward multiplayer. You'll notice wording that says like each opponent and stuff like that. And we just kind of have to take all these different things plus the constructed environment that we're trying to create, plus think about the player versus enemy challenge lord system, plus come up with ways to tell the story that we're trying to tell. And that's you take all these different things, and it's a lot, and then you just try and condense it down to a set. And so basically the short answer is we just have to commit design space to it and try and make sure. I would say with the first set, it'll kind of be like training wheels are on for the draft aspect. We're going to devote a lot of time and energy toward making the set fun to draft. But then slowly, as people learn how to draft and get better at it, and we get better at designing it, we will start to take those training wheels off. So the first set should be highly draftable.
Sounds good. Rogue Panda Art had another question. What are we looking at in prize support in the future? And then Rich Carter is broken in chat answered with Hookers and Blow. So can you confirm that Hookers and Blow will be prize support? And if not, what's a good alternative?
No, I mean prizes. Oh God, I mean, I don't know, a replica of the King's Lady. You name it. We're gonna. Obviously we've done play mats.
Big event prizes, stuff like that, yeah.
On the community side, obviously we've done a bunch of play mats. Everybody has a play mat by now from the old crew, but we'll keep doing them moving forward. But also just the same thing as everybody else is the short answer. So card sleeves, special like I mentioned, stamped, stamped cards for big placements at big events. Maybe top 16, top 32, top 64. Assuming we reach those numbers. Promos, just all kinds of stuff. Deck boxes, backpacks, just Yeti, coolers, cups, just whatever we can come up with that we think people would enjoy. Dice bags, D20, dice are such a huge component of the game, so that's something we'll definitely work on. And we will also come up with components that help you track things, like wounds and bonuses and those kind of things. And so doing custom versions of that for events could be fun.
Can you imagine if you
And organized playkits will be.
Yeah, would you imagine if you hand Midge a replica of King's Lady? Like, will you guys be legally responsible for what happens at that point?
Please don't do that.
I would.
If it's Midge that gets it, he'll sign a waiver before.
There we go. Smart man.
And would we steal it from Mitch?
We would pull the judge to the side and say, DQ him in the finals.
There we go.
Game 3.
That's how you do it. Let's see. Let's go over our next question from Smurf Pedro. Would there be only one quote-unquote default starting army per faction for draft, or would we have choices of default characters?
One.
Yeah.
There we go.
It could be very vanilla. Think basic land.
But of course, as you draft, you can upgrade your starting army if you draft characters that work. Same with your warlord. So think default warlords, but if you open a warlord, you can swap it out if you're able to support it with the rest of your draft. So,
NH Irish Punk asks, how many cards are you looking to have per set? Are you guys at that point yet?
It will vary, but they will be large sets. So it'll go up and down a little bit, and the way we're going to do it, I know some games do blocks, so they tie everything together for a certain number of sets. We've kind of seen in the CCG ecosystem that a lot of people are moving away from that, and that actually started, to my knowledge, a lot of that came from World of Warcraft trading card game. They just kind of realized that some stories, some expansions for World of Warcraft, they needed like 3 sets just to tell the story, and so they would take it. But then some they only needed 2, or maybe some stories they only needed 1. And so we will, commit as much time as we feel is necessary to tell the stories that we want to tell through the sets. And some of them will be bigger, some of them will be smaller. But I don't want to commit an exact number. The first one, we obviously do have a number in mind for the first couple, but we don't want to share that number just yet, just in case we're off by a little bit, and then somebody will come in with a gotcha and be like, you said on Chris Vaccaro's stream that it was going to be 350 cards, but it's only 347. And then we'll look like idiots. And
there are people in chat who will hold you to that, so you better watch out.
We're learning. I'm out of coffee.
I'm trying to look through the chat just for guys. I know, like, if I'm skipping over your question, it's because it either has already been answered or just there might be better questions. Sorry, get a better question out, guys.
Better questions. You need to up your question game, chat.
Yeah, come on, guys. TCG Tira. Let's say, will there be some kind of faction overlap for draft? 6+ factions and 8 players in a pod seems problematic.
It's really, so this goes back to, this kind of involves the chosen question, right? We have, you can look at it different ways. We kind of have 10 colors of Magic, right? We have 4 classes and 6 factions, or you can look at it all as dual colors or dual things, because it's always a combination, right, of class and faction. It is not as difficult as you would think, is what I would say. So I was really worried about this when we built the cube, which we have a draft cube that we use, and I think only Chris, Josh, and myself have used it. Obviously, Seb will get a chance to play at Gen Con. I don't know, Mason, if you're making it to Gen Con, if you'll be there.
I will be there. Yep.
You'll be there, so then we'll run a cube draft just for you, and we'll make sure that your packs are seated with dragons.
Fantastic.
But it was really a concern when so the same thing. Before we built the cube, I was sort of doom and gloom. I was like, this isn't actually going to work, and this is going to be a lot harder than I think. And we kind of built this up as a community, this fear, this sort of existential, it's just never going to work for drafting Warlord, and we assumed because AEG would have made it work if they could. I think is some of it. but in practice, it works, and it's really intuitive, and it's a lot of fun, and it sounds like 6 factions is too much, but it's doable. I promise, just from experience. I don't know if I can communicate in the time that we have.
It's hard to
Why it worked.
quantify, but basically, it has happened many times when
It just
I
works.
think I've probably cubed just as much, if not more, than anyone else, just because of the fact that Woodrow and I have been in the same place, but he's not played. But I have drafted too many characters for my faction in a pod of 8 or 12 even more than once, and because if you think about from a draft perspective, you're going to have a limited deck size, right? It's not, the plan is not for it to be a 50-card deck, right? So in our cube, we use a 30-card deck size. So if you were provided a starting army that you can use, that's 6, and you can't have more than 50% of your deck the same. So you're only gonna have to draft 9 characters.
Yep.
That's nothing out of 45 cards, right? And if there's cards that are playable by multiple factions, things like that, then yeah, I mean you're gonna get there.
And if I understand you right, you already told us you're gonna see more multi-factions, so that gonna fix the problem as well, right?
There'll be multi-faction around, but it's not again, it only seems like a problem. Once you start drafting Warlord, you'll realize that it actually is because of the reasons Josh listed. We have our ratios pretty well down. And Chris, I think you've drafted the cube a lot too. Have you ever felt like, man, I just can't get a deck together?
No, I wouldn't. It's surprisingly smooth, and
Yeah.
I think even then you had the fix of what do you get? You get a mesmeric horror and a toughness if you don't have enough, like physically. So you have that contingency.
Footman's Pike is
Footman's Pike.
I think.
Oh,
Footman Pike, toughness, and mesmeric horror.
I made use out of toughness, and it was great. Another
because that
go ahead.
will also be a problem. Drafting to correct deck specifications, right? Like it's still going to be required that you can't have more than 50-50. It's going to make a miserable draft for everyone if you draft 30 characters.
Rich Carter is broken is asking, are you guys looking for any playtesters?
We're not taking signups right now, but yes, so that could become a thing. We're those guys though, or at least I am. I don't know if Josh is, but I'm that guy. I'm that person rather that if you play test with us, if you do design with us, you really need to decide if that's what you want to do. Because if you do that, we will be restricting whether or not you can participate in Kingswood Games sanctioned events for a certain amount of time until those cards that you worked on are in circulation for a certain period of time. So if you work on a set and the set doesn't come out until next year, you won't be able to play until, let's say that set's out for a certain number of months. And so that's a big commitment. And yeah, suddenly it's not as exciting as you thought to do design or dev. The reasons we do that are obvious. We don't want people to have an unfair advantage or be able to, and I know it's like, oh, come on, just relax, guys. It's not that big of a deal, but it matters, I think. And so that's a sacrifice you need to make if you want to do design or dev. So think twice.
There we go. You heard him, folks. Let's go to QTP. I think this was touched on, but it's important, so I want to call it out again just in case my memory is slipping. Will there be a TO/bounty hunter system for our local game shops?
Yeah. Something similar. Again, we don't have organized play nailed down, but yes, there will be kits and incentives for people to run those kits and run those events.
Gotcha.
Just for those who didn't play during the AEG era, what does that bounty hunter system look like? Is that similar to the Dragon Lord runner, or is that something a little bit different?
You're asking about previously?
Just asking, with QTP's question, will there be a TO/bounty hunter system? What exactly does the bounty hunter system look like? Or do you not have that worked out entirely, what your aspect of it would be?
No, our OP is sketched out, so our organized play plans are in sketch and exist in theory only right now. But it's nothing that we want to share because we might change things.
Gotcha. All right, let's see. You got a question from Stenner. Theme balance question. Are we thinking low fantasy or just before CE where everything is bonkers?
Theme balance.
So I guess low fantasy versus I guess in CE it was kind of like everything was on the table, where I guess like the core set of Saga the Storm really felt very D&D, and then after that it's like, oh, here's some massive abyssals, here's some craziness, and it went in another direction. So what are your thoughts there theme wise?
We will do a lot of top-down sets, and we'll do some bottom-up sets as well. But I think what I would expect to notice differently from what AEG did or what 4E did. 4E maybe was somewhat themed on some of the sets, but you will notice that we are telling a story each time. So, for example, I'm just throwing something totally random. This isn't upcoming or anything. It's not worth theorizing about. But let's say that there is a really important port off the side of the Accordlands that every faction is using. Some kind of resource gets to them through this trade route, and pirates attack, or a sea hydra pops up, or something happens to where that is disrupted, and that is bad for all the factions, and they all send out somebody to help solve it, and they all kind of work together but then also fight amongst themselves, and that is the story for the set. So you will see what does it look like for Nothrog pirates or sailors? What does it look like? What do the Free Kingdoms send? And what are the elves, who are they sending out to help solve this issue? And then all of a sudden you have a set themed around this idea of seafaring, and the mechanics will support it, the art will support it, and so you'll see a lot more theme sets. So the answer is it will be set to set and story to story different. Some of them might feel gothic horror, or Viking, or just all kinds of things, political intrigue. You can see all those different types of things, but then we'll take those stories and look at them through the lens of the Accordlands and Warlord story, which is ultimately, it's a game that was based on and themed around. It's a world that was based on and themed around the world's most famous role-playing game. So of course it's going to be fantasy, high fantasy. It'll be as fantasy as it was before.
And I think I'll also tack onto that and say that even in fantasy RPGs, you end up with a lot of different versions of fantasy, and a lot of different versions of what those kind of worlds look like, different planes of existence, etc. So I think any and all of that is on the table.
I love the idea. I mean, we already got elf mermaids, so Northrog pirates. You got me.
There we go. We'll make that happen. I know we're running low on time, so I say we're going to hard stop it at 3 more questions, because otherwise I know we'll be here literally for a week. So let's see. Ray Greaves. Oh, go ahead. What's up, Mason?
I was going to say, one I've seen asked by a few different people. Will we see dungeons and or battlefields return?
There'll be new card types as we go forward. Maybe not at launch, but one of the things that we noticed when we started working on design was that we wanted more tools. We wanted some more like creative elbow room. We wanted some more tools in the design toolkit, and new card types are absolutely on the table, right? That's I don't know if it, I'm not going to comment on exactly battlefields or exactly dungeons or reworking or revamping. We're obviously going to have the 3 main card types are going to be represented about how they were before, items, actions, and characters. But we are totally free to do battlefields or quests or, just whatever we want. So we,
That's that plays into the rule book, right? If we have a comprehensive rule book that can include caveat rules for additional formats, caveat rules for historical gameplay elements, like dungeons, battlefields, epic classes, etc. Like I very much want those things to make sense in my brain in a way that if someone shows up at the table to play a legacy format, Like they're like, oh, I have this dungeon card and I want to use it. Can I use this in this legacy format? Yeah, absolutely. There's rules in the comprehensive rulebook for that. If there was some sort of battlefield that came out in the future, or some similar area-wide effect for something, will there be specified rules in the comprehensive rulebook about how that's going to affect various gameplay styles or something? Yeah, absolutely. Do we think those things are going to be necessarily like normal play? No, probably not. But maybe in the future. It just depends on where things go. Definitely not in the beginning.
Gotcha. All right, let's run through. Ray Greaves Art asks, any new classes? And he specifically says, will monks get their chance? Will monks get their chance again? Question mark.
So, one of the things that you'll notice in almost immediately in the new cards are that most characters will have they have their faction, which is where their allegiance is, but they'll also have a background, which is their species or their race, and a lot of them will have archetypes or what we call subclasses. That'll be much more common. So you might have a card that says that they're an orc barbarian or a human monk or something like that, in addition to faction. So yeah, monks will be there. But it won't be like this, sort of fifth class in the way that it was before. It was always classless, and then they had to, devote a ton of card space to it. This will just be rolled into everything that's happening, and a way to reference. Of course, we can just make a fighter action and say, it's better for monks when monks use it. That way,
we're not going to be afraid. Go ahead.
Just that way, we don't have
mercenary.
That way we don't have to devote, we don't have to cut our sets up and, devote a lot of time and energy to supporting these little offshoot of the classes.
We're not going to be afraid to just throw it on stuff.
Yeah.
If we need to, I guess the short answer. Like this guy can be, a troll. This guy can be, something else. We don't plan to have flavor traits in the same way that they existed. There'll be actual interactable items. Now it's not like we're gonna devote space to all of that stuff in each set. Of course we can't. But if you're playing in legacy formats or in further sets in the whatever the block or standard format is of the time, then yeah, maybe we can reference back to that and stuff like that.
There will be a lot more as well. It won't just be the sort of the three subclasses for each class. There will be a lot more. So, think warlocks, think artificers, think everything. Just whatever you can come up with. There'll probably be a character somewhere that has that on them, and then some will be occur more often and be referenced in things, and there'll be tribal and there'll be different things. Go ahead, Seb.
Just more fun comment. I'm looking forward for more mercenary storm wraith.
Mercenary storm wraiths. Okay. So this is an inside joke with Robert. Okay.
No, dead Tyrannus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Overlord.
That was not our call. That wasn't our call.
Not our call.
In fact, I highlighted that, and I got a one-word reply. So.
I will take one question, and I will take it. Fantago asks, can dwarfs swim? I will say yes. Caves flood. And I happen to know a few dwarf loyalists who live right off by the ocean, and I'm assuming they can swim. If you live by the ocean and you can't swim, something's wrong. So
the dwarves live in trees in the new setting.
Oh, there we go. They're like half lizard people, and they only live to be like 12 years old. That's how we go. All right, I think there is one last question, and I know I said I wasn't going to repeat it, but this is a really good one, and I think we got to ask it. So, Rogue Panda Art, what is the name of this new edition? What should we call it?
It doesn't work like that.
Come
on. Short
on.
answer. Yeah, I know. So previously it was it didn't seem thought out right. It was like and this is not, again, I want to be clear that we have no shade for anybody. But when AEG started out, they, ran the game, and then they're like, okay, it's out of hand. Let's push a reset button. And then they, made cards, and they said, okay, let's push a reset button. We will be much more structured. So for our, standard style format, there will be a fixed rotation point. And then that'll just happen every so often on a timer. It won't be sort of like, I think Pokemon does this, where they just decide when they're going to rotate. And again, that's the way Warlord was done in the past. That's not how we are going to do it. We will have fixed intervals at which things rotate.
Kingswood edition, got it.
Think more set by set rather than like these 6 sets are legal rather than it being an addition or something like that.
At a fixed interval, some number of those will rotate out, and then the pool will be smaller, and then it will get bigger again as we make more.
Awesome. And I think that is where we will lead off. So we'll move to our conclusion here and, do some, I have to honor somebody in chat, good old Graham, who is leading our Discord community and some of our monthly online tournaments. For those who are just checking in because you found out Warlord is back, yes, we still play. We play online. Monthly tournaments run through our Discord. The link to Discord, if you're watching on Twitch, is already in my description. But if you're watching this VOD, the link to that will be there. You can also find information on the event for SagaTheStorm.com. We are playing, for this month, we are going to be playing traditional Ancients tournament. We do some casual ones also, alternating every month. Those usually have a schedule, and sometimes they get a little crazy, and then we go back to traditional Ancients, which is kind of some people think that's crazy, but that's the more common addition for the old guard who are currently playing now until we get our hands on some new cards. So definitely take a look at that. Deck lists are due this Friday, so if you're looking to compete, definitely get involved. Feel free to reach out to any of us on those forums. We are happy to help you out there. So I will plug that. And then now from that, I will turn to my lovely content creators. Seb, you want to do some plugs?
Plugs?
Yeah. Where can people find more of you?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, the language barrier. Okay, plugs. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everybody who's watching my VODs and giving feedback and stuff like that. You can see me on Twitch. I'm doing German streams, but when I play on Warlord, I'm doing that one on English, and you can see that one on YouTube. If you're looking for me, it's on YouTube. You're looking for Slyfox Live, and also on Twitch Slyfox Live, but instead of an E and live, it's in one.
There we go.
Seb's content is, I don't speak any German, well, a little bit, but not really. But I love tuning into Seb's content. Just for a little bit, I'll peek in. My favorite was when you were playing Elden Ring. I loved jumping in and watching you die, and then watching your face. It was a lot like whenever we would play in the online events, and you would roll odd against my planar characters. I'm kind of I'm developing a taste for watching you suffer.
I got the damn card that you sent me, the Wrath, and you added manually per hand plus 14 HP because I missed him 14 times. I still got that card.
I had to ship something to Seb, so I sent him so he missed an Amadousi's Wrath 14 times in one of our matches, and so I signed it, and then I wrote plus 14 next to the hit points and just kind of slipped that into a package I was sending him.
Beautiful.
Good times.
Yeah, I did.
Mason, where can we find more of you?
Yeah, I stream all my online matches on Twitch, twitch.tv/wyvern. And I throw in some occasional non-match streams as well, and I'm certain as Warlord returns and grows and evolves, there will just be more of that going forward. Otherwise, I upload all my matches to YouTube, and I have, like I said, some beginner videos on there. I'm doing a faction intro series with Graham right now as well, just kind of giving an overview of how each faction currently functions for returning or new players, and that is on YouTube. I believe it's youtube.com/@wyvern. If you're unsure how to spell that, it's above my picture here on stream. Otherwise, I'm sure Chris will have it linked in the description as well.
Got you covered. And last but not least, our esteemed guests. Where can people find out more about you? Where can they follow? And any last words? For the community, not total. It's a business venture, guys. Relax.
As far as finding more out right now, the best easiest place is warlordsots.com. and then the Patreon as well, which is patreon.com/Kingswood Games, I believe.
Socials at Warlord CCG, but Chris will put all this in the description, in the YouTube description. So just look below.
Trust me, there are people who don't read, so better to say it online while we're here.
Yeah.
So, but yes,
You're noticing.
So, and then with that, I'd like to thank everybody who came, hung out, and chat. Thank you to everybody who liked, subbed, did everything we could here. Seeing the support, not only for this brand new game, but support for us content streamers really warms our heart, obviously. So happy to bring you more content like this going forward. So hopefully this has answered a lot of your guys' questions. And hopefully, it's drummed up more excitement to get back into the game. So with that, we will see you all next time. Take it easy and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Yeah, thanks.